We sat down for an exclusive interview with FBI Director Kash Patel. No topic was off limits. There's a lot of news in this interview, from the Epstein Files to the Russia collusion investigations and the escalating conflict with Venezuela over drug trafficking. As we were finalizing the video for release, the news broke that Director Comey's indictment was dismissed. We want to be fully transparent about the timing of our conversation with Director Patel because there's so much news in that conversation. So let's get straight to the point. Director Patel, thank you for speaking with Straight to the Point. When you arrived here at FBI headquarters 9 months ago, what did you find?
Catherine, it's great to be with you. Thanks for coming here to FBI headquarters and sitting down with us. When I first got to the Bureau, I knew I would find one thing for sure, and that is a dedicated workforce to the mission. I also knew I would find things that needed to be fixed and changed and addressed in terms of how we prosecute and investigate cases, in terms of how we treat the workforce and how we care for them. This building, for instance, our infrastructure systems, all these things that a place like the FBI needs to be functional have to be serviced. And I knew I would find a lot of those matters in disarray, unfortunately, because of years of neglect.
What did you consider your most important change so far?
The most important change for me is the focus that we put on moving this mission to the field and empowering our SACs and our leaders in the field. That's why when we first got here, we immediately set out to redeploy over 1,000 agents into the field from Washington, D.C.'s National Capital Region. I found out that our 36,000, 37,000 person strong workforce in the NCR, the National Capital Region, had almost a third of the workforce. But most of the crimes were being committed outside of the NCR. So we moved them out, and I can proudly report today that we have successfully moved out nearly the entirety of the 1,000, and we'll finish that in January. So every field office in the country is getting a plus up of agents, and they're going to be followed by intel analysts and support staff. And we're empowering our SACs, our field leaders, to do the work in the field.
Multiple lawsuits have been filed alleging that there were terminations here at the FBI and they were politically motivated. Were the FBI terminations politically motivated?
No. And since those are all ongoing matters, I will say this definitively. If you were terminated as a result of any matters during my tenure at the FBI, it was done because there was just cause to do so. And we will speak to that just cause through our pleadings.
One of the big cases you inherited is the attempted assassination of President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. What are the findings?
So as you know, Catherine, we've been briefing the president constantly on this matter, and he's very satisfied with it. And I understand the public's desire for more and more information. But when we came in, our job was to both treat the president as the president of the United States and a victim, and remind the American public that there were 3 other victims, and tragically one person even lost his life. So there are certain victims' rights that we have to honor. But what we did and what we presented and what we released is the full findings that we are able to publicize to the world that definitively answer questions regarding Butler. We seized dozens and dozens of devices. We exploited and got into every single one of those devices. We got onto all the online platforms and social media sites of the assailant, of Crooks, and we did a re-canvassing just to double down since we got in and inherited this case. And we gave out information to Congress and the public that the prior administration refused to do.
Just to be clear, did Thomas Crooks act alone?
Yes, based on the evidence that we have, that is the conclusive finding of the matter.
Is there evidence of foreign involvement?
There, as we indicated in our public disclosures, Thomas Crooks had some online platforms where he engaged through email with a couple of individuals overseas, and we chased those down literally to the end, and basically it was just that, online email accounts overseas without any substantive communications.
What was Thomas Crooks' motive?
He, as has been publicized, had a basically hateful relationship with the United States government, talked disparagingly about both political parties, to include President Trump, and talked about the need to take matters into his own hands, and unfortunately that's what he did.
Under Director Wray, were there missed opportunities to stop Thomas Crooks?
You know, that's a question you'll have to ask him. Part of what we're doing is providing the information to the American public, and most importantly, Congress, to get to the American public so they can answer those questions. We weren't there when it happened. We weren't responsible for the investigation. We don't know what happened and why those decisions were made, but we're doing what we can to clean it up.
What explains the discrepancies and confusion over Crooks' online activity?
Look, I think, Catherine, you know this, in media, everyone's entitled to their opinion and everyone's entitled to put out whatever they want to put out. But what we, the FBI, are not entitled to do is trample over your First Amendment rights. And so while people are asking why the prior administration didn't find Thomas Crooks earlier, and it's a valid question, by the way. One, you can ask the prior administration, we weren't here. But two, this FBI or any FBI doesn't have the ability to go out and monitor, nor should it, people who are on YouTube or on social media platforms or on email platforms. And we have to balance both the criminality, if there is such, versus the First Amendment protections, which we must adhere to.
You mentioned earlier that you've been briefing President Trump. Is President Trump satisfied by the findings?
Yes.
No more questions?
No.
Is the Thomas Crooks case a closed case?
How we treat cases like this of such great public importance is we put them in a pending/inactive status. So if there's new information that comes in, we can receive it and react to it, and we don't want to foreclose that possibility.
Democratic lawmakers released a video calling on military personnel to defy illegal orders. President Trump weighed in and called it a seditious behavior. When you saw this, what went through your head?
What goes through my head is the same thing that goes through my head in any case. Is there a lawful predicate to open up an inquiry and investigation, or is there not? And that decision will be made by the career agents and analysts here at the FBI.
Is the FBI getting involved?
Based on the fact that it's an ongoing matter, there's not much I can say.
Okay, I want to talk about the Russia collusion cases. Former FBI Director Comey is pushing hard to get his case dismissed. Are you confident the interim U.S. Attorney, Lindsay Halligan, can secure a conviction?
I can't comment on the finality of the case since it's pending and the allegations are before a court for Mr. Comey. But what I can tell you is this Department of Justice under the Attorney General and U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan have been following the facts and the law and making a presentment based solely on that. And the presentation of evidence that was divulged just recently in the pleadings shows the world the substantive information that we have collected when bringing this case and acting on the facts and the law.
You know, respecting that there are ongoing investigations based on your recent congressional testimony, is the FBI pursuing a broader conspiracy that was allegedly designed to undermine President Trump?
We have multiple ongoing matters surrounding that. It's no secret. We can discuss this limitedly because we have divulged it to Congress, because we were working with our partners in oversight on Congress who have requested a voluminous amount of information. And what I want the American public to know is the baseline commitment we have to congressional oversight. Director Comey in his 3+ years turned over 3,000 pages of documents to Congress. Director Wray in his nearly 7 years turned over 13,000 pages to Congress. Us, this FBI, in 9 months, we're about to turn over our 40th 1,000 pages of documents to Congress already.
To be clear, are you building a larger conspiracy case?
We are going to continue to follow the facts and the law, and we have multiple teams working on these matters like any other case, and they will decide what to present and what not to present.
Are the former DNI James Clapper and the former CIA Director John Brennan and others in the clear?
Well, the FBI is not in the business of exonerating people. This FBI will be in the business of following the facts and the law. And as you've noted, and you followed greatly with our engagement with Congress, a number of these individuals, including the ones you have just listed, are being examined, and our scope of that will continue until we reach a finality of a conclusion.
Evidence filed in the Comey criminal case has revealed that earlier this year at FBI headquarters, 5 burn bags were discovered containing sensitive and classified information about the Trump investigations. Have you reviewed the burn bag materials? So
this is a great example of when we first got here, we said we would do our speaking of our FBI work through our pleadings and case file system. This is exactly what we've done in the Comey case. We have presented, everybody's been talking about these burn bags and all this evidence that was found. And there are questions, and there should be questions on why did this room exist with all these burn bags in the first place?
Let me ask you, when you learned about the discovery of the 5 burn bags here at FBI headquarters, what went through your head?
Shock. Unbelievable shock that not just one director and his leadership team, but multiple would have information that's supposed to be secured. Some of it's classified, but I mean secured for purposes of record-keeping purposes, to keep up with federal statutory requirements, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. And instead, they were deposited in bags listed for destruction. So that was very disturbing. Just that in and of itself, putting aside whatever was in there.
The burn bags were found in room 9582. That's a secure facility. I'm told by former agents that it would have some sort of access system or key card system. Does FBI leadership have a good idea who put the burn bags in that room?
We do.
You know for sure, or you have a good universe of
know.
suspects? You know who put the burn bags there. Okay. What was the intent of the person who put the burn bags in room 9582? Was it to preserve them to be discovered later, or to make sure they were destroyed?
Well, those are the questions we're answering for the public and for this investigation, because not only are we not in the business of not exonerating people, but we're in the business of taking our investigative findings and working with Congress to say, look, even though we did not or did reach a legal conclusion on the matter, this is of such public importance in terms of the weaponization of government that happened, people like President Trump were targeted, including myself, and more senators that we just revealed thanks to this FBI's work in uncovering not just the burn bag, but other material related to Arctic frost. What we want to do is find a public forum to display that information. And we believe that until our investigations conclude, we will be limited in what we can produce.
It sounds to me like you know the answer to that question.
I do.
That's what I thought. Okay. A highly classified CIA referral containing intelligence about the 2016 presidential election was also discovered here at FBI headquarters in a storage closet adjacent to the FBI director's office. How many FBI personnel had access to that storage closet?
That's part of this ongoing investigation, and because we are working through that, I don't want to disclose the number of folks or even who had access to it, because that goes to your other question on who put it there and why did they put it there, and were there any instructions associated with them depositing that material in these rooms.
Was that referral about intelligence concerning an alleged Clinton plan to tie President Trump to Russia?
I think the document you're referring to is, one, still classified, so hard for me to comment on, but two, it's also part of this ongoing investigation.
Okay. Am I correct, based on my reporting, it is a very, very small universe of individuals who had access to that storage closet?
Very small.
Is it in fact only one?
It's very small.
Okay. On the Epstein Files Transparency Act has a very tight deadline, 30 days, to produce unclassified records. Will the FBI meet the 30-day deadline?
Well, we are working with our partners at the Department of Justice to produce, as we've always committed to producing, what we can lawfully, legally produce. And we will continue to meet those metrics, reminding the public that there are court orders in place, protective orders, and orders to seal in place that legally prohibit the disclosure of information related to any investigation when there's a court order of that fashion. So we're working with DOJ to say if we can produce anything more.
As FBI director, will you commit to as few blacked out sections or redactions as possible?
We always do. We have in our productions to Congress, which have been historic to this year, and we'll treat every matter in the same fashion while also upholding always victims' rights. Victims' rights in any case, whether it's President Trump's case, this case, or any case, the victims' rights statutes are preeminent, and we will protect those victims at all costs. President
Trump told your boss, Attorney General Pam Bondi, to look into the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Democrats, including former President Bill Clinton. Is the probe limited to Democrats, or will you follow the facts wherever they lead? We'll just follow the facts. It's pretty simple for this FBI. This administration campaigned on releasing the Epstein files. What do you say to Americans who are skeptical that there will be actual justice under a Trump administration?
look at the work of this FBI. To date, in the 9 months that I've been on this job, we've arrested 30,000 people, 25,000 of which have been violent felons. That is double increase from year to date from the same time period last year. We have taken on our priorities in counter-espionage work to an increase of 35% more arrests year to date alone. On the drug front, we've seized 1,900 kilograms of fentanyl. That is a 35% increase from year to date last year. That's just the work of this FBI. We found 5,400 and identified 5,400 children, missing children. That is a 17% increase from this same time period last year. These are just a few examples of how committed we are to working the criminal cases for the American people so everyone gets treated the same.
So more charges are possible in the Epstein case.
Based on the new referral, we'll take a look at that and see what evidence comes. But there's an important distinction. The information that the government possesses versus the information that the Epstein estate possesses. Those are two separate boxes of information. And the Epstein estate has not been willing to share information with the U.S. government. And so even though we've requested them to do so.
Okay. I want to talk about China. After a recent visit to China, the Chinese Communist government agreed to tighten control or restrict precursor chemicals used to produce fentanyl. Take us inside those negotiations. What was the moment when you knew you had a deal?
So this is one of President Trump's biggest priorities. And when he came in and I came into this seat, he said, we have got to crush violent crime and defend the homeland. And part of doing that is countermanding the wildly, unfortunately successful narco-trafficking campaign against America. And a big piece of that is fentanyl, as we just discussed, which is killing far too many Americans by the tens of thousands. And so on day one, we made it a priority to engage with our Chinese counterparts because the fentanyl precursors are sold and produced in mainland China. And thanks to President Trump's engagements with President Xi and his historic engagement with President Xi, we, and under this FBI, set out on a mission to go to China and meet with my counterpart at the Ministry of Public Security, and literally were welcomed into China and Beijing for the first time in a decade for an FBI director with a specific list of precursors. That's the ingredients that are used to make fentanyl, and a separate list of chemicals that are used to augment the production of fentanyl. And immediately at that table, I knew, based on President Trump's conversation with Xi Jinping and my current conversations with my counterpart, that we had struck an agreement to shut it off when we sat down, and they've adhered to it.
How quickly will you know if China is breaking the deal?
We will be able to glean the impact of the deal, not immediately, but in the very near future.
So months, maybe?
I would say a couple of months. Mm-hmm. And here's how we will be able to tell. One, we always have intelligence reporting, and we're always monitoring those committing narco trafficking, the drug trafficking organizations who have rightly been designated as foreign terrorist organizations down in Mexico. We'll look into the intelligence and see, are there reflections? Is there chatter about, can they make fentanyl? Do they have the precursors? Are they going to find artificial substitutes to those artificial precursors themselves? Those would be immediate ways for us to find out. And ultimately, we'll just know from the amount of fentanyl we're seizing and seeing come across the border and into America and how much is being sold on the streets. And so that'll take a couple of months.
Have the consequences of cheating on the deal been communicated to China?
I think that is a higher level decision point that the president and Secretary Rubio are engaging on. There's the matter of tariffs, but we in the FBI are just playing our part under that big deal to make sure fentanyl is off. And I think and believe that the Chinese will keep to their commitment on this because of President Trump's leadership.
On the Charlie Kirk assassination investigation, you testified recently that more than 20 people were on the Discord chat related to the suspect, Tyler Robinson. Mm-hmm. Have you spoken to those people? Is it now a larger universe of 20 people?
Well, so with the Charlie case, It's a matter that is being led by the state authorities in Utah because it is a homicide investigation that is being prosecuted by the state. So us as the FBI are partners and part of that prosecution team. We're not the lead, and it's very much ongoing. So there is a lot of legal process being doled out, and we are committed to issuing every piece of legal process and search warrant that we can to talk to absolutely everyone and anyone who had anything to do with the assassination of my friend. And we're going to continue to do that and also honor the prosecutor's wishes in how we do that and what we release publicly.
Respecting that it is an ongoing investigation, is there any evidence of foreign involvement? Is there any evidence that Tyler Robinson had help?
Again, that will be spoken through by the prosecutors. If I, as the FBI director, commented on that right now in any way, shape, or form, that would hurt their case. And the worst thing that can happen is the individual who's charged and has his day in court down the road is if we, the FBI, or another law enforcement agency improperly commented on evidence and gave the defense an unfair advantage during the trial.
In a recent cable news interview with Fox, you said to stay tuned about the January 6th pipe bomber case. Are there new developments we can discuss?
There are new developments. Can we discuss them? Not at this time, but I think you'll be hearing from us soon on it.
Are you closer to making an arrest?
When we took over the FBI, we knew there was a renewed interest in a lot of cases of great public importance. And of course, this one, where it was alleged that someone went to the United States Capitol grounds and planted a bomb to possibly blow up then Vice President Kamala Harris or other Republicans and other Democrats on Capitol Hill, was one we felt important enough to redouble our investigative tactics. And that's what we've done. And like we did in the Comey case, when we made presentations in court, when the American public finds out the presentations we will be making, if we get to a judicial decision, then they will see how much was missed in this case, and what we have done, and I hope the American public will realize our commitment to putting out as much information as we can, when we can, on cases of great public importance.
There's been a lot of media reporting about the pipe bomb case recently. Have there been any significant breakthroughs for the FBI in recent days?
Yes.
Of course, I'd like to have a little bit more, but can you share any more? Do you expect that there will be a charge before the end of the year?
My job is to protect the integrity of the investigation, and I know that causes a lot of backlash from some sectors of the online community, but I'd rather speak through our casework in public and be able to assure the American public that we are delivering actual accountability than just sit here and tell you, I think we're going to get them.
The military has conducted at least 21 strikes on alleged drug ferrying boats since September. Is there government data that shows these strikes are reducing the flow of illegal drugs to the United States?
Without question. President Trump's commitment, his work with the Department of War and the intelligence community and the FBI on this matter has been of preeminent importance as we talked about the narco trafficking. We are seeing reflections in our intelligence already, without getting into the details, of the drug trafficking organizations trying to find new routes, scared that they might get, and rightfully so, blown up. And so there has been an immediate impact, and I think this is a decisive decision that President Trump rightly made.
Are you confident there's a direct link between Venezuela and the flow of fentanyl to the United States?
There is a direct link between Venezuela and a lot of transshipment. In terms of what is and isn't being transshipped through Venezuela, a lot of that information is classified, so I can't get into the details of it. But I think this administration has correctly pointed out the amount of overland and over-air transshipment routes and oversea and undersea transshipment routes coming and stemming from Venezuela.
Let's talk about the jet. You flew on a Department of Justice jet to visit your girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins, performing at an event at State College. Were any rules broken?
No, and I'm shocked that people would, well, I guess I'm not shocked anymore. This FBI, under my leadership, changed the FBI plane use requirements. so that we could save the taxpayer money. I am the only director to ever mandate the use of government airfields. The prior directors utilized airfields like Reagan National to the tune of $4 million for takeoffs and landings. And so I think this is another distraction from the work that we are doing here at the FBI. And the fact that members of Congress are up in arms about it, why don't we ask them how often they went home during the government shutdown and how much money they spent going home and who they traveled with and how many delegations they had.
Is there a brief update on the status of the new FBI headquarters?
There's a great update. You're here in the old one, which we can confidently say is the old one. We're moving to the Ronald Reagan Building, which is just basically across the street. Mm-hmm. It is a project that people have been trying to accomplish since 2000. And under President Trump's leadership, he saw that this building was unsafe for the workforce. And if you guys walk around with your camera crew, you'll literally see netting here that is holding up falling pieces of cement so it doesn't hit employees on the head. This workforce deserves a high-tech, upgraded version of a headquarters building. And the great part is, prior administrations wanted to spend nearly $5 billion on building a new building that wouldn't be completed until 2036. We are taking already appropriated funds in the maintenance of just this building and utilizing, instead of the maintenance of this building, to move over into Reagan and upgrade it. And we will save over $3.5 billion by doing so. We've already secured and moved into one of the floors over there. And now we have some security assessment work going on. And I hope by the end of next year, we'll have a large chunk of our workforce there. And we'll also consolidate a lot of the wasteful spending on leases in other government properties that the FBI uses in the NCR and come under one place.
Final question. Director Patel, I first reported on you over a decade ago when you were a senior staffer on the House Intelligence Committee. 2015, 2016, the Russia collusion allegations. I since left Fox, went to CBS. I'm now working as an independent journalist. If you'd asked me a decade ago, I would not have imagined that we would be sitting right here today. Director, you could have given this wide-ranging interview to any major corporate outlet. Why choose independent journalism?
I'm glad you said that, because your work speaks for itself. And the work that I did as a staffer on Russiagate, the work that you did to educate the world on the ultimate weaponization of government during Russiagate and the abuse and the unlawful practices before a secret court to surveil a political opponent based on political garbage and the lies the FBI presented that court. Remember what they said about us a decade ago.
Well, that's going to have to be for another interview. But why give the interview to an independent journalist?
Because you were right to put out that information, and I was right to investigate it and put out the facts. And the reason I gave you this interview is because you're committed to putting out the facts and none of the hyperbole, and you've done that your entire career.
Well, thank you, Director Patel. We appreciate the time here on Straight to the Point.
Thanks so much, Catherine.
Based on my 2 decades as a journalist here in Washington, it can take months to secure a major newsmaker interview. My job is to identify the topics, the line of questioning, and then draft and redraft the questions to make sure they're clear, concise, and straight to the point. My experience is that a clear, concise question is the best way to elicit the most authentic, transparent answer from the interview subject. We are committed to newsmaker interviews here on Straight to the Point. We'll see you next time.